We have with us today the Department of Information and Communications Technology Secretary, Ivan John Uy. Good morning, Secretary Uy.
Good morning, Daphne.
Nice to have you here in our first broadcast of Malacañang Insider.
I'm glad to be buena mano.
Oo nga. Salamat. Let's get straight into a conversation here. What is deepfake? Ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng deepfake?
Deepfake po is it's a technology tool that is used now to make something appear to be real when it's not. So it's often used for voice and for video images where you can replace somebody else's voice or somebody else's video image or photo over an existing image. Deepfake actually has been used for a long time already in the movies, in the TVs.
CGI like that?
Yes, okay. So computer graphics imaging. So they use it also for like yung mga green screen or blue screen where it's not just the face but it's also the environment. So you are in a studio but when it appears on TV, you are over a prairie or a mountain or in a forest, but you're not actually. So these are, kumbaga sabi ng dati, no, tawag natin dyan special effects. So today, we call it deepfake.
Deepfake. Nagiging deepfake siya kung may iba yung intention?
Yes, kung ang intention, you're trying to make it appear something that it is not.
Mm-hmm. So how do we identify deepfake?
Well, there are technologies and there are software that's out there, no, that you can use in order to distinguish between altered images from the original images. Mm-hmm. And what's important, but with the use of those technology or those software, you need to actually have a copy of the original one and then put it into the algorithm so that it will now be able to identify if that image is altered or not. So in forensics, they use actually those software in order to analyze whether things are authentic or not. Mm-hmm. So using forensic tools. Mm-hmm. And there are forensic tools that are available out there to distinguish those.
Okay. Recently, we've seen some high-profile deepfakes that have affected celebrities and even officials.
Yes.
Could you give us an update on any investigation regarding this matter?
Well, it's still ongoing, and we've identified several of those. No, some of them actually are even being used for marketing purposes. Mm-hmm. So you see ads taken out on social media, purportedly to be coming from a celebrity endorsing a particular product, but that celebrity actually never endorsed that product. So they use the face and they use the video of that celebrity, but actually the words that are coming out are not from that person, but it sounds like that person. Mm-hmm. And then they endorse a product that is fake or that is being sold in order to increase its marketability. Mm-hmm. And we've received complaints coming from those celebrities, and we relay it to the social media platforms, informing them that these are fake and that the true celebrities that are there have already submitted their complaint. Okay. So, responsive naman, some of the social media platforms, they take it down immediately, mm-hmm. especially if it's proven that they're fake.
Well, we're always on TV. We're also quite vulnerable to deepfakes. Anyone can take our image and announce something.
Yes.
Is there anything there that protects us? Especially like you're an official of the government and some of our officials have been attacked. How do you investigate and what can be done?
Well, we need to probably come up with more responsive and timely policies in order to address this, no? Especially when it comes to matters of national security.
Yes.
I mean, we cannot have a situation where a high government official is suddenly posted on social media announcing, let's say, a major disaster, mm-hmm. or an explosion or whatever, causing panic to the citizenry, when in fact that wasn't the truth. And a lot of responsibility actually falls on the social media platform that delivers, that is the platform that empowers this kind of information or misinformation. And other governments have already tried to address that. No? For example, Malaysia has just come out with a law that requires now social media platforms that has a following of more than 8 million are now required to get a license or a permit from the country. And that now puts more control by the country that if these social media platforms misbehaves or allows misbehavior, then they can be imposed with penalties.
The media company,
The social media company.
Wow.
Now, the problem is many of the social media companies do not hold office in the country.
Oh, my.
So some of them only has lucky if they have even a skeleton crew. No? Very often is they're operating from abroad.
That's the common thing, though. You're in the digital sphere. This is your work. So it's borderless.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes, like, what if the deep fake that affects our officials and our citizens actually comes from a foreign country? Are there already laws that cross boundaries and territories?
Well, the ones that have those kinds of rules are those governed by what we call multinational agreements or international treaties, no, or conventions. Like, for instance, child pornography. So there is an international agreement on child pornography that cuts across all the different jurisdictions. And this kind of approach is very effective because it actually addresses the issue of jurisdiction and addresses the issue of criminal organizations hiding outside the territorial or criminal jurisdiction of a particular country. Today, with respect to deepfakes, misinformation, there's none yet. And there are efforts on the part of different countries to find ways and means in order to address this more effectively.
Interestingly, we already have a law, RA 11930, which is the Anti-OSAIC and CSIM Act. It's the production and ownership of, like you said, child pornography, but we call it online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. And they cover deepfake and AI, but only for minors. And minors are defined 18 and below.
Right.
So what happens if somebody gets deepfaked for whatever reason and you're over 18? Hindi walang protection ang mga tao.
For now, the only protection would probably be defamation,
Cyber libel.
cyber libel, defamation. You see, criminal law by its nature is designed to be interpreted very strictly against the state in favor of the accused. And so you cannot overexpand its definition or its coverage outside of what the law clearly states. And therefore, if it is only covering a certain age group, then that's really where it stays. The courts cannot expand its coverage outside of the limits of the law.
So do you think we need a new law?
I think so. We need a new law. Actually, I think we need to have a more comprehensive law rather than bits and pieces of legislation that addresses small items or specific items. For instance, you have an anti-scam law, you have an anti-misinformation law, you have an anti-deepfake law or something like that. Like, for instance, in other countries, they have, example, Singapore, they have online harm law. So that covers anything. If your conduct online causes harm, whether it's phishing, scamming, deepfake, misinformation, whatever, then
Covered
it's
na
covered
lahat.
under that law.
Wow.
So I think that's a better way, no, of addressing this whole thing, rather than having separate laws that addresses all. We have actually a lot of laws, and it's very difficult to keep track and to enforce all of them. So I think a more comprehensive approach would be appropriate.
Especially since technology moves so fast.
Yes.
Pag sinabi natin anti-deepfake, next year iba na yung tawag nila doon.
Yeah.
Hindi na deepfake,
Oo.
something else.
Right.
Diba?
Then you have to come out with another law, especially since these are criminal laws. Criminal laws kasi are interpreted very narrowly. No? So but you specify that it's online harm, then I think that provides more leeway. At the same time, I think there should be a law already to impose penalties on platforms that enable these.
Where are we at with that? Platforms meaning mga Facebook,
Yes.
Twitter,
Yes.
X,
Social media.
Social media. Okay.
Because they're enablers.
Oh nga.
They're enablers on this. If you would see, example, no, AMLA, anti-money laundering. The banks are enablers or financial institutions, and there are penalties that are imposed on them, even if they're not the criminals themselves, but because they are able to facilitate that criminal activity, there are penalties that are imposed on them.
Okay.
I think it should be in the same concept, that if you are an enabler of a criminal act, then there should be, so that the burden of, because they are in full control of their platform. And countries, governments do not have control over that platform. So if there's something that goes on there, I think they should have more responsibility over that.
That's right. I think we still have a long way to go to go beyond the promises of and the relationship that we have with our social media platforms that are functioning.
Yes, but this concern is now being addressed in many discussions, no, with our regional organizations like ASEAN, EU,
Okay.
and even in the United Nations.
That's interesting. So more on a regional basis rather than country to country.
Yes, I think it has to, because
Right.
it's cross-jurisdictional. It's
right.
boundaryless.
Okay. Well, habang tumatagal, mas nagiging makatotohanan or hyper-realistic na ang ginagawa ng artificial intelligence or AI. So, what are the initiatives of the Department of Information and Communications Technology in combating deepfake? We will be right back.
Alinsunod sa mga direktiba ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., inilunsad ng Department of Agriculture ang Program 29 upang magbigay ng dekalidad na bigas sa halagang 29 pesos kada kilo sa halos 6.9 milyong vulnerable sectors na kumakatawan sa humigit kumulang 35 milyong Pilipino. Ang malawakang trial program na ito ay naglalayong makalikom ng komprehensibong datos tungkol sa supply, demand at logistics na makatutulong sa mas epektibong pagpapatupad ng programa.
Ngayon, itong programa na to, maganda kasi nakakatulong ka sa mahihirap. Tulad ng bigas, makakita ng 29. Ang pinakamababa ko nabibili, 50. Ito, 29. Magkano ang diferensya ng 21? Di ang laking tipid.
Maghahanda rin ang kadiwa ng mga booklet upang subaybayan ang pagbili ng bigas ng mga benepisyaryo ng Program 29 tulad ng mga senior citizen, single parent, mga may kapansanan at mga benepisyaryo ng programang 4Ps ng gobyerno.
We're back. This is Malacañang Insider, and with us is the Secretary Ivan Uy of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Okay, Secretary Uy, marami na yatang mga scams sa Pilipinas, and it's gotten to the level called scamdemic. Isa na ang deepfake na gumagamit ng generative AI tools. How are we facing this challenge? Are we ready for this?
Well, it's a global concern actually. So the scams are pervasive all over the world, no? And in fact, in the world, what I've seen from the statistics, for instance, Singapore has the highest per capita loss in terms of scams. It's on average 5,000 Singapore dollars
Loss
per person.
Wow.
Per person in terms of scam. And so during our ASEAN ministerial meetings, we are one, no, in raising this concern all throughout. Thailand is also has one of the highest scam incidents, number of incidents that's occurring within the ASEAN region. So of course, this is a very lucrative criminal activity. Cybercrime has actually surpassed drugs in terms of profitability for the cyber criminals, and so they are pouring in huge amounts of resources in order to perpetrate their criminal activity on these platforms, on scamming, on phishing, on ransomware, and many others, and of course, and also using deep fakes. In many instances, deepfakes are being used commercially in order to generate sales by using celebrities' endorsement. No? In other areas, it's being used for political gain, especially during elections, where they use them to either malign or to discredit certain people by attributing quotations or phrases that are extremely unpopular, and then making it appear that that person uttered those statements, and that becomes even more destructive if, let's say, they're released a few days before people cast their ballot, so that there's no more time anymore for the real person to say, I never said that. So those are the things that we're seeing. U.S. elections coming up in November, and we're seeing a proliferation of that even in the United States. And it would appear that even a first world country like the United States is not really able to nip it or address it completely. There's still things popping up here and there.
Okay. You mentioned the elections in the U.S. and we're also starting a campaign season here.
Yes.
Na-expect nyo ba na magkakaroon din ng mga use of deepfakes and AI sa mga malicious campaigns?
I have no doubt. It will be utilized.
So paano na?
You know, elections sometimes can be extremely dirty, no?
Yeah.
And there are candidates who will resort to nothing less than full domination, no, of their quest to be elected. And so they will definitely launch that. That's why, but they can only launch it on social media platforms. I mean, that's the platform that gains traction. And again, we go back to my position is that these social media platforms are enablers. They're the ones who provide this medium for information as well as for disinformation or misinformation.
But Secretary, sometimes the misinformation and disinformation, we don't see it in social media. It gets passed in those private group chats.
Yes.
Like
Viber
WhatsApp,
or
Viber,
Telegram, right.
Signal. Is that governed by, can we protect our people from these things there?
These types of, these are called over-the-top, no? OTT, over-the-top platforms. These are used for basically private communications. And they are encrypted. They're encrypted. So they're designed to be private communications between one person to another person, or between one person to a group of people that are part of that group. And that probably, there will have to be a law that will be passed, because first, how will you have access to those platforms? You will have to, quote unquote, wiretap them, because these are private communications. So you go back to the wiretapping, anti-wiretapping law, and seek court orders, no, in order to be able to do that. Now, once you're there, they can claim that this is a private conversation. This is not a broadcasting to the general public, and should it be covered by certain rights, because this is private and not public.
So medyo complicated pala talaga to. Anong pwede, as the DICT chief, anong ma-advise nyo sa mga nanonood sa atin? How do we protect ourselves na one, from being faked, and two, from reading and believing fakes?
Well, we have to be more discerning. We have to be, we should not be swallowing everything hook, line, and sinker. Today, information is so open and so accessible that anybody can be a broadcaster. Anybody can be a commentator. Unlike before, where broadcasting is limited to those that have the studios and the facilities to broadcast it, today with the internet, any citizen, any person can become now a opinion maker, they call it a thought leader, and they can produce their own content. And depending on their popularity, they can have a captured audience based on their content. So that is the shift, no? The paradigm shift brought about by technology called internet. And so governments, legislators, countries are still trying to figure out how to manage and how to navigate this. Sabi nga lang, WWW is not World Wide Web. It's Wild Wild West.
Okay.
It's something that is unregulated and something that is open and free, which was really the very design of what the internet was supposed to be. Open and free. But then now you're seeing that this openness and this freedom has led to a lot of good things, but it's also being exploited by nefarious actors that has evil intentions.
Secretary, are there any warning bells or signals na pag kunyari naka-receive ka ng and it's like, oh, nanalo ako, or, parang if it's too good to be true, malamang hindi siya totoo.
Yes.
Can you give some tips to our viewers kung ano ang mga red flags na parang deepfake yan?
Itong ginagawa namin, no, we're still working on the software and the platform, but what we're trying to do now is, let's say, nag-launch tayo ng eGov Super App, di ba? So with that eGov Super App ngayon, gusto namin lagyan ng, kasi meron tayong e-report system where you can report things. We're trying to integrate some AI into that platform so that when you receive something on your text or whatever, send it now to that e-report system through the eGov app. And then ibabangga namin yan to our database to find out if this is legit or this is a phishing or a scam.
Ay, yung mga text na nakukuha natin,
Oo.
dapat i-report natin?
Oh, i-report sa eGov app.
Sa okay.
We're still working on
Right.
that platform so that there is kumbaga a clearinghouse.
Yeah.
A clearinghouse. So bago kayo sumagot, bago kayo mag-respond, ibato nyo na muna dito and then sasabihin namin na teka, maraming nang na-scam dito sa ano nito. So mag-ingat ka, posibleng scam yan. Bahala ka na kung sasagutin mo pa rin yan o hindi.
Siguro wag na lang sagutin. Kung tawagan nyo na lang yung bangko nyo.
Yes.
'Di ba? Para sure na...
At wag magki-click doon sa number na yun.
Oo.
Kung alam niyo yung account niyo, alam niyo yung branch niyo, tumawag kayo doon sa manager. Wag kayong mag-click doon sa pinadala niyong number dahil kargado na yung number na yan. So those are the things. Do not believe it immediately. Always validate, always verify. Minsan nakakatanggap yung may natanggap naming report na isang nanay sa bahay nakatanggap ng text galing sa anak daw na aksidente. Pero hindi pala na-aksidente.
Parang nung old school, ano yun? Yung
Budol-budol. Yeah. Budol-budol. But then, dati, yung budol-budol, stranger ang tatawag.
Oo.
Ito, boses ng anak mo. Or magte-text siya, pero ang tawag sa iyo, yung tawag ng anak mo.
Oo nga eh.
So kung ang tawag sa iyo, Mami Dires. Mami
Alam
Dires
nila.
rin. Mami Dires, nandito ako sa at alam kung anong school ka. So sasabihin niya, nandito ako sa school. Ninakaw yung cellphone ko, nakikigamit ako sa kaibigan ko. Kailangan ko ng pera, pamasahe, or may na-aksidente, magpadala ka ng pera. Paki-text na lang dito, paki-Gcash or whatever dito sa number nito. So, when you receive something like that, make sure you call immediately your child to verify
Kung siya ngayon.
Kasi sabi na wala yung cellphone. Pag tinawag mo, sasagot yung anak mo. Mami, bakit?
Oo nga.
So, always verify. Kumbaga, always be suspicious. I think that's the better term now, no? Better attitude. Be
Right.
more suspicious.
Sabi din nila, create a family secret
Code.
password.
Oo. Oo.
Diba? Na kayo lang talaga. Huwag niyo susulat.
Right.
Dapat lang.
Right. So,
You
yeah.
do what you can just to protect yourself. And be suspicious and
Yes.
cautious all the time.
Right.
Oo
So
nga.
you have a password that you use in order to validate whether it's really coming from you or not.
Okay, right. So, are there any other tools that your agency is asking for or critically needs in order to stay ahead and combat cyber crimes and deepfakes and AI?
Well, we've been requesting for a special fund, whether it's whatever you want to call it, but the criminal organizations are using every means possible in order to scam or to attack whether we are the citizens or even government infrastructure. And in many instances, we need to be very agile in the way we respond. And current rules on, let's say, procurement or on providing safe havens for, let's say, informers. Without those special funds, we will not be able to respond quickly enough to these. And the cyber criminals move extremely fast.
Right.
They're very, very fast. So we are stymied by many of the rules that are inherent in standard utilization of government funds. So there are special mechanisms that are available to law enforcement and to security agencies that will allow them better flexibility. And we feel that the DICT is also a security agency because we deal with cyber security. And so we need to have that kind of agility because we need to be more agile than the cyber criminals. Otherwise, we cannot fight a battle where our hands are always tied and theirs are not. Because it's a no-win situation.
You have to stay ahead.
Yes, we do, and we need that kind of support from our legislators in order to be able to effectively address this growing threat and growing concern on criminals, on cyber attacks that's happening all over the world.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Secretary Uy, for giving us a rundown on what are the issues that you are facing and how difficult it is, but it's not impossible.
Yes.
Yeah, with technology and investment in new technology.
And resources.
Resources.
Right. So long as we're given the proper resources, we have people who are willing to do that. Sadly, because even salary, we've already had like 7 resignations in our cybersecurity group because they're pirated by the private sector who pays them double or triple what government pays them. So how can we now be effective in securing if we cannot afford to keep our people because we're not paying them enough?
Oh dear. Yeah. We hear you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Secretary Uy. Mahalaga ang pagiging mapanuri sa mga impormasyong nakikita at naririnig natin online. Through proper education and technology, we can protect ourselves against misinformation. We bring you in-depth views of the latest issues and regular palace updates. I'm Daphne Oseña-Paez, and this was Malacañang Insider. Have a good day. See you on Wednesday.